here we have the prototype for the department store dresses. They're a very simple template, almost identical front and back, and there's actually very little sewing in these to put together because they just get pinched in the waist with a belt, and that gives all the shape that you're looking to get. So it's not like a complicated design. And so once that's sewn together, we just paint on the buttons and the collar, which is just quite a nice technique. So I'm going to turn it inside out now and show you how I've sewn that together. Here we have the dress turned inside out. So it's just a straight line sew across the shoulders, and then a straight line sew down the sides from underneath the arm. So this is the armhole here, and that's open, and a straight line sew down here. So that's the first two things you would do. So you would add your shoulders together, and then you would start underneath the arms and run to the bottom here. Afterwards, after you've done both sides of that, you're just going to hem the shoulders and you're going to hem the neckline. So I've made this neckline a little bit maybe lower than it should be, so I'll probably just adjust that and send you a pattern that kind of cuts it a little bit further up. So I just folded that over once and did a zigzag on it. This is like a polycotton sheeting, so it doesn't really fray too crazy, so it's not super necessary to do anything more than a single fold over. A lot of the time you would do a double fold, but I just don't think that's really necessary, and it can be a little tricky to do that around the neck. So there it is on the other side too, a single fold, and I just have a single line across the top of the shoulders there as well. Now you can double sew that if you want, if you think that it's going to fray. That's totally up to you, and that's grand. So yeah, they're a really simple sewing job. Once you've done your shoulders and your neck is hemmed, you just would double fold the hem at the bottom, just because I think that, well, it's easier to do on that than on the neck because it's not curved. So yes, you can just run a straight line stitch across that one, and that's all the sewing that's involved in that one. So for these costumes, we're gonna do half of them in black with white paint on them, and then half of them in white with black paint on them. So what I've done is I've made a template of that front thing, just because that's a little bit easier. So you can trace that out with a bit of chalk or something that will work on the black fabric, and then just paint over it. So it could be normal like kids chalk, or if you have dressmaking chalk, or a colouring pencil that's bright like a white, or a yellow, or a crayon, anything that'll make a mark really. So yeah, so that, just draw it on and then just paint over it. There's also a bit of paint on the back. The back is just literally a straight line with a couple of buttons. So 4 little buttons there. So I didn't do a template for that, but you can use the same size of the circles from the front if you like, and then just do a straight line down. But if you draw it first, you won't go too far wrong. So yes, that's our department store dresses. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like on the mannequin, because it looks a lot more effective than what it looks like right now. It's like a giant nightie or something. So when you see it when it's on the mannequin, it's really nice. So the fabric that you're going to get for these dresses is a sheeting fabric, which means that it's extra wide. So it's 94 inches wide, so it'll come folded over. So you'll have a 47-inch width. So if you leave the fabric folded over, you can cut your front and back pattern at the same time. Okay, now this dress is 40 inches, but it can definitely take the extra length, especially with the petticoat on the inside. So you're going to run your pattern all the way down to the 47. So this one finishes at 40, so I'm going to give you a pattern for the 47, and I'll put some directions on your template, but a couple of the dresses will make a little shorter, but the most of them will go the full width of the sheeting fabric, which is the 47. So I'm going to give you a pattern that looks like the shape of the dress that's here. So that's the dress folded over. So then you would just fold your pattern over to the other side and you get the other side done. Okay, I hope that totally makes sense. I'll write it in the Word document anyway, and I will show you the pattern now once I cut it. Half dress pattern, technically quarter dress, I suppose. So what I've done is I've added on a piece at the bottom for the longer dresses, and the line that you see there, that's actually for the dress, the prototype dress, the shorter one. So what you can do is you can make your larger dresses first, and then if you want you can just either cut that off or just take it off with the tape, because it's just taped on separately there. So there you go. I will direct you as to how many short and how many long to make. I'll actually write it on the template, but it'll also be in the Word document. For the department store dresses, we're also going to give them a little bit of body on the inside. So we're just going to use this roll of dress net, which comes on the roll and is folded already. So we're going to do the simplest sort of petticoat type thing for underneath, which is literally just run this through the machine. You'll need 3 meters per dress. 4 is a little bit too much, less than 3 is not quite enough, so 3 is perfect. And you're just going to run about an inch or so in from the fold. You're just going to run that through the machine in a straight line stitch, okay, so that you create this little channel in here. Okay, so you're just going to create a little channel in there, and we're going to send through an elastic when it's all done. So the elastic is going to be about a 1/2 inch. So as long as you are bigger than a 1/2 inch here, you should get that through no problem. So when we've got the elastic in, it ends up looking like this. Okay, so it's all kind of bunched up there, and it gives you enough petticoat to put underneath your skirt. So once you've sewn the channel in the top of your petticoat, you're going to sew down the back so that the whole thing makes a full circle. Okay, it's just a single sew, easy peasy, and then leave a gap at the top so that you can feed in your elastic. Now the best way for you to get an elastic into this is to use a large safety pin. In fact, you need 2 safety pins, because if you are sending the elastic through, it's not going to be massive because it's going to fit kind of a relatively small waist. So what you would do is you would pin one end of it to the skirt so that it doesn't pull all the way through as you're feeding the other one through. So a relatively large one would be quite good. So you just pin that onto the skirt and then use the other one, pin it onto the front of the other end, and then feed that through your waistband there. It's the easiest way. They're quite easy to push through, and they've got a nice soft front on them so they don't get caught in anything. Just make sure as you're feeding it through that you don't accidentally open it. It can happen and you're feeding through and then that gets stuck as you're going, so just keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, yeah, you should be totally fine. And then when you get to the end, out the other end, you would unpin from here, obviously, and then you would just tie a knot in that. It's the easiest way really than having to sew it or anything. This doesn't matter because it's inside, so you can just kind of give that a little single or even a double knot, and that would be perfect. I'll tell you what size of elastic in the Word document that you can use to follow with these videos. So if there's anything that's not in the video, it's probably in the Word document. Okay, so that is that. This dress also requires a belt. So we've just made a long strip of fabric and we've just folded over the edges and given that a hem. So this is about 2 meters. I tend to make the belts and things quite long because they can make a really nice bow at the back. So that is literally just a single fold and a zigzag stitch pretty much catches over the edges so that you don't really get much fraying like that. As I said, this is a poly cotton sheeting, so it doesn't really fray too crazy. So yes, that's kind of the easiest way to do that. It's one of my favorite things with these kind of costumes is just doing a single fold and a zigzag stitch, because the zigzag actually it complements the dress anyway because it's black and white. So yeah, so we'll get you the matching threads for that, or rather the opposite, so black with white and white with black. Okay, so that's the belt. So I'll show you the whole thing put together now on the mannequin. That's the dress, the underskirt and the belt. For the belt, I'm not going to give you a template for that because you can just use the belt itself as the template. Now, as I said earlier, it would be about 2 meters length. The width actually doesn't matter. So generally what we'll do with belts is whatever fabric you've left, you just split that with the amount of dresses that you have, because if that was even that width, that would still be totally fine. We just need something to tie it with. I just like them to be as wide as the one that I'm sending, because it just makes a really nice bow at the back, but it's not really necessary. So just work with whatever you've got left and split that into how many dresses that you're making. Okay, so yeah, there we go. So here we have our completed dress. So we may make some of these dresses a little bit longer. The petticoat there you can see is quite visible at the bottom, but I don't mind that. It matches in anyway, so but we think we'll make a few of these a bit longer, because again, we don't know what size kids are going to be wearing these, so it'd be good to have a couple of different lengths. But I'll direct you on the template anyway.